I always imagined my wedding would be perfect, not in that over-the-top, Pinterest board way, but perfect for me. The late October weather was playing along beautifully, with just enough autumn chill to justify the long sleeves of my dress. Everything was going according to plan, until my sister Ava grabbed the microphone. My name is Reagan, and I should have known better than to think I could have one day that wasn't about her. Before the happy couple has their first dance, Ava's voice rang through the speakers, her smile dazzling as always. I have a special announcement that will make this day even more magical. I felt Kaysen's hand tighten around mine. My new husband knew as well as I did that Ava never made small announcements. Louis and I, she paused for dramatic effect, one hand resting on her stomach, are expecting. The reception hall erupted in cheers. My mother, Georgia, practically leaped from her seat, tears already streaming down her face. Dad was beaming. And me? I was frozen, watching my carefully orchestrated wedding reception transform into my sister's impromptu baby shower. Can you believe it? My mother gushed, rushing past me to embrace Ava. A wedding and a baby announcement. This is the happiest day of my life. Victoria, my best friend and maid of honor, leaned close to my ear. That's weird. Didn't Ava post about doing tequila shots last weekend? The memory hit me like a splash of ice water. I'd seen those Instagram stories too. Ava, at her favorite bar, definitely not drinking like someone in their first trimester. Reagan, honey, Ava called out, waving me over. Come here, sis. You're going to be an aunt. I plastered on my best crisis management smile, the one I use for work when clients are spiraling, and walked over. Ava pulled me into a tight hug, whispering, "Isn't this amazing? Now we both have something special." That's when I caught it, the faint smell of champagne on her breath. "When are you due?" I asked, loud enough for others to hear. Ava's eyes flickered momentarily. "Early May. We're so excited." Louis, standing awkwardly nearby, looked as surprised as anyone. "Yeah, excited," he echoed, though his face told a different story. The rest of the reception became the Ava show. My first dance with Kaysen, interrupted by people congratulating my sister. The cake cutting, overshadowed by discussions of baby names. Even my father's toast somehow turned into a celebration of becoming a grandfather. "You okay?" Kaysen asked as we swayed to what was supposed to be our spotlight dance. "She's lying," I whispered back. "She's not pregnant." Kaysen's steps faltered. "Are you sure? Remember last month when she borrowed money for her emergency IUD replacement? The one mom and dad couldn't know about." "Jesus," Kaysen muttered. "Why would she?" "Because she's Ava," I said, watching my sister hold court at her table, one hand perpetually resting on her flat stomach. "And she can't stand when someone else has the spotlight." Victoria appeared at my elbow with a fresh glass of champagne. "Want me to accidentally spill this on her white dress? It's your call, bride's privilege." I shook my head, taking the champagne for myself. "No, I have a better idea." "Reagan." Victoria's tone was warning. "That's your 'I'm about to do something crazy' face." "Not crazy," I corrected, watching Ava pose for yet another photo, this one with her hand on her non-existent bump, while my mother dabbed at her eyes in the background. Strategic. I work in digital crisis management. When influencers and celebrities mess up, I'm the one who helps them navigate the fallout. I know exactly how to build someone up online and exactly how to watch them fall. "What are you thinking?" Kaysen asked, concern evident in his voice. I took a long sip of champagne, my eyes never leaving my sister. "I'm thinking it's time everyone sees the real Ava. Every lie, every manipulation, every fake story she's ever told." "That sounds like revenge," Victoria said quietly. "No," I replied, setting down my empty glass. "That sounds like karma." Later that night, after the guests had gone and Ava had posted no fewer than 12 wedding photos, all featuring her baby announcement, I sat in my hotel room, still in my wedding dress, and created a new private Instagram account. The bio read simply, "The truth about Ava Norris." Kaysen found me there, hunched over my phone. Come to bed, Reagan. It's been a long day. It has, I agreed, but I didn't move. And tomorrow's going to be even longer. I looked up at my new husband, tears finally breaking free. She couldn't let me have one day, Kaysen. Just one day that was mine. He wrapped his arms around me, and I let myself cry. For my ruined wedding, for years of being second best, for every time I'd swallowed my feelings to keep the peace. But these would be my last tears over Ava. From now on, she'd be the one crying. You're being awfully supportive, Victoria said, eyeing me suspiciously over her coffee cup. We were sitting in my home office, a week after the wedding, surrounded by social media analytics and engagement metrics. Of course I am, I replied, clicking through Ava's latest Instagram post, a carefully staged photo of her browsing baby clothes. I'm the caring big sister who's thrilled about becoming an aunt. And the fact that you've created 3 separate spreadsheets tracking her social media activity is just sisterly devotion. I spun my laptop around to show Victoria the numbers. Look at her engagement rates. She's gained 10,000 followers since the announcement. Brands are already reaching out for sponsored maternity content. Reagan, did you know she's already signed deals with 2 baby furniture companies? I pulled up another spreadsheet. They're sending her free stuff in exchange for monthly bump updates. Victoria leaned back in her chair. This is what you do for work, isn't it? Track everything before the fall? I finished. Exactly. I've managed enough influencer scandals to know how this works. The higher they climb, the harder they crash. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Ava's having terrible morning sickness. Can you bring over some ginger tea? Perfect timing, I muttered, grabbing my keys. Want to watch a performance? 20 minutes later, we found Ava sprawled dramatically on our parents' couch, looking suspiciously well made up for someone supposedly suffering from morning sickness. I brought your favorite tea, I announced, setting the bag down, and some crackers. You're the best, Ava beamed, then quickly covered her mouth, pretending to gag. Oh God, the nausea. Mom rushed to her side. Maybe we should call the doctor. No, Ava said quickly. I mean, it's normal, right? Every pregnancy is different. Speaking of different, I said casually, I was thinking we should document everything. Your first pregnancy journey. We could start a blog, maybe do weekly updates. Ava's eyes lit up exactly as I knew they would. Really? You'd help me with that? Of course. What kind of social media expert would I be if I didn't help my baby sister share her joy with the world? Victoria coughed to hide what I suspected was a laugh. We could do a gender reveal. Mom clapped her hands excitedly. Something big, with lots of photos. Actually, I said, pulling out my tablet, I was thinking we could do something even better, a live-streamed series, following Ava's entire journey. Weekly check-ins, doctor visits, nursery planning. I watched Ava's face carefully. There it was, the tiniest flicker of panic. Live streams, she asked, her voice slightly higher than normal. It's perfect for building your brand, I assured her. Your followers will love the authenticity. I don't know if I want to share everything, Ava backpedaled. Some things should be private. Since when? Victoria muttered under her breath. I pressed on. We could start small, maybe just document your first ultrasound appointment. When is that scheduled for? Oh, Ava shifted uncomfortably. The doctor's been so busy. I'll call right now. Mom reached for her phone. Dr. Martinez always has openings for existing patients. No, Ava practically shouted. I already have one scheduled, with a new doctor, a specialist. I pulled out my phone, opening my notes app. Great. What's their name? I'll add them to the content calendar. Ava stood up suddenly. I'm feeling nauseous again. Bathroom. As she rushed out, I noticed something fall from her purse. Picking it up, I found myself staring at a receipt from a pharmacy dated 3 days ago. For tampons. Victoria peered over my shoulder. Well. Girls, Mom called from the kitchen. Help me plan the baby shower. I'm thinking we could do it at the country club. I tucked the receipt into my pocket. Coming, Mom, I have lots of ideas for that too. Later that night, I sat in my home office again, updating my private Instagram account with a photo of the receipt. The caption read, "Interesting purchase for someone who's supposedly pregnant." The real Ava. My phone rang. It was Kason. "How was Operation Support Sister?" he asked. "Productive," I replied, scrolling through years of Ava's social media history. "Did you know she faked getting into Harvard 3 years ago?" Reagan. "She posted about her acceptance, got everyone excited, then claimed she decided to pursue her true passion instead. Mom and Dad never even saw the rejection letter. Are you sure you want to do this?" I clicked on another old post. Ava, announcing she'd been scouted by a modeling agency. Another lie I'd watched everyone believe. "She's been doing this our whole lives, Kason." The fake achievements, the made-up dramas, stealing everyone's big moments. Someone needs to show people who she really is. And that someone has to be you? I thought about my wedding day, about every birthday party turned into an Ava showcase, about years of being the responsible sister no one noticed. "Yes," I said firmly. "It has to be me." "Oh my God, Reagan. Look at all these gifts," Ava squealed, surrounded by packages from her Amazon baby registry, the one I'd helped her create and accidentally shared with her entire following. "Your followers are so generous," I said, snapping photos for her social media. "Should we open them on live stream?" Ava's smile faltered. "Maybe not today. I'm feeling a bit queasy." "Morning sickness again?" I asked innocently. "At 4 p.m.? It comes and goes," she mumbled, pushing aside a box of organic baby clothes. The doorbell rang, and Louis walked in, looking tired. "Ava, we need to talk." "Babe, look what everyone sent for the baby." She gestured at the mountain of gifts, but Louis wasn't smiling. "That's actually what I wanted to discuss," he said, glancing at me. "Privately." "Oh, don't mind me," I said, settling deeper into the couch. "I'm just documenting everything for the baby blog." Louis ran a hand through his hair. "Ava, my mother's asking questions. She wants to know why we haven't had a doctor's appointment yet, why there's no ultrasound pictures." "I told you I'm waiting for the specialist." "What specialist?" Louis demanded. "You won't even tell me their name." I pulled out my phone, pretending to check emails while recording every word. "You're stressing me out." Ava's voice cracked. "It's not good for the baby." "Is there even a—" "Get out," Ava screamed, tears streaming down her face. "If you don't believe in me, in us, then just get out." Louis stared at her for a long moment before turning and walking away. The door slammed behind him. Ava collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I waited, counting silently. 1, 2, 3. "He doesn't understand," she whispered. "Nobody understands." "I'm here," I said softly. "Talk to me." Ava looked up, her mascara running. For a moment, I saw my little sister again, not the carefully curated social media personality she'd become. "Everyone expects so much," she said. "They want me to be perfect, exciting, always doing something amazing." When I posted about the baby, the likes, "Reagan, I've never had so many people interested in my life. And now you're trapped," I finished, trying to ignore the twinge of sympathy in my chest. She nodded miserably. "I didn't think it through, but now there's all these gifts, and the sponsors, and Mom's already planning the shower." "You could tell the truth." Ava laughed bitterly. "And lose everything? Mom would never forgive me. My followers would destroy me. I'd be a joke." I thought about my private Instagram account, growing steadily with evidence of Ava's deceptions, about the plan I'd set in motion, about karma. "Remember when we were kids?" Ava asked suddenly. "When I used to pretend I was a famous movie star, you made me be your paparazzi," I recalled. "I followed you around with Mom's old camera. That was real," she said quietly. "That happiness, that feeling of being special. Now everything's fake, and I don't know how to make it real anymore." My phone buzzed, Victoria calling. I ignored it. "Sometimes," Ava continued, wiping her eyes, "I look at you, and I'm so jealous. You have a real career, a husband who loves you, actual skills. All I have is followers and likes, and," she gestured at the pile of gifts, "things I don't deserve." The twist in my gut grew stronger. This wasn't how revenge was supposed to feel. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Victoria. "Check Ava's latest post comments. People are asking questions about the timeline. It's starting." "I should clean up," Ava said, standing. "Can't let my followers see me like this, right?" As she disappeared into the bathroom, I opened Instagram. The comments were filling with doubt. Wasn't she drinking at that club 2 weeks ago? Where are the ultrasound pics? Something seems off. I had what I wanted. The cracks were showing. People were catching on. So why did victory taste so bitter? My phone buzzed one more time. Mom sending a group text. "Baby shower planning meeting tomorrow. Can't wait to celebrate our little miracle." Ava emerged from the bathroom. Makeup perfect again, phone in hand. "The baby furniture company wants weekly bump photos," she said, voice shaking. "What am I going to do?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the filters and carefully crafted posts was a scared young woman who'd built her whole identity on being extraordinary, even if it meant lying to get there. "I'll help you figure it out," I heard myself say. "Really?" Hope flickered across her face. I nodded, even as my revenge plan screamed in protest. "Really?" But as Ava hugged me, I couldn't help wondering. Was I offering to help her face the truth? Or was I just promising to help her dig a deeper hole? Either way, we were both running out of time to decide. "You're enabling her," Victoria said, pacing around my office. "I just watched you help her stuff a pillow under her dress for that 12-week bump update photo." I minimized the window, showing my sister's soaring engagement rates. "I'm building evidence." "Are you? Because it looks like you're helping her scam thousands of people, including your parents." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with Mom's call. "Reagan, is Ava with you? She missed the prenatal yoga class I scheduled." "She wasn't feeling well," I lied smoothly. "But don't worry, I'm taking good care of her." "You're such a wonderful sister," Mom gushed. "I was just telling my book club how blessed Ava is to have you supporting her through this pregnancy." Victoria rolled her eyes dramatically as I ended the call. "Speaking of support," I said, pulling up a spreadsheet, "the baby registry fundraiser just hit $10,000. $10,000. Victoria stopped pacing. "Reagan, that's fraud." "It's evidence," I corrected. "Every donation, every gift, every sponsored post, it's all documented. When this breaks, it won't be a simple scandal. It'll be criminal." The office door opened, and Kaysen walked in, looking concerned. "Louis just called me. He's worried about Ava." "Join the club," Victoria muttered. "He says she's acting erratic, avoiding him, making excuses about doctor appointments." Kaysen sat on the edge of my desk. He asked if we knew anything. I closed my laptop. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing, but Reagan, this is getting out of hand. The country club called about the baby shower deposit, and your mom's already ordered custom party favors." My phone pinged with an Instagram notification. Ava had just posted a tearful story about pregnancy hormones, making her emotional. The comments were flooding in with support and heart emojis. "I need to go check on her," I said, standing. "You mean help her dig deeper?" Victoria challenged. I grabbed my keys. "I mean, make sure my sister hasn't completely lost her mind." I found Ava in her apartment, surrounded by pregnancy books and crying over her laptop. "I can't keep track of all the lies," she sobbed. "Someone asked me about my first trimester symptoms, and I said I had weird cravings for spicy food. But apparently, that's not even a real pregnancy thing. Ava and Louis's mom keep sending me articles about prenatal care, asking which tests I've had done. I don't even know what a nuchal translucency scan is." I sat beside her, noting how her bump pillow was slipping. "Maybe it's time to. I can't tell the truth." She grabbed my arm. "Mom's so happy. Dad's already bought a crib, and all these people who've sent gifts and money. Reagan, help me fix this." The desperation in her voice was raw, real. For once, There were no filters, no perfectly staged photos, just my little sister, terrified of her own lies. My phone buzzed. A comment notification from my anonymous account. Has anyone else noticed Ava's bump looks different in every photo? Something's not adding up. The baby showers in 3 weeks, Ava continued, wiping her eyes. Maybe I could fake a miscarriage before then. People would sympathize, right? You could help me write the announcement. Stop, I said sharply. Just stop. But you want to fake a miscarriage? Do you have any idea how that would affect women who've actually been through that trauma? Ava blinked. I didn't think. That's the problem. You never think about how your lies affect others. You just keep going, bigger and bigger, until a knock at the door cut me off. Through the window, I saw Louis standing outside. Oh God, Ava whispered, clutching her fake bump. I can't face him. Ava, Louis called. I know you're in there. We need to talk about the doctor's appointment tomorrow. I looked at my sister, at the fear in her eyes, at the mountain of lies threatening to bury her. Then I looked at my phone, at the draft post, ready to expose everything. One click, and it would all come crashing down. The evidence was overwhelming. The fake registry, the sponsored posts, the thousands of dollars in gifts and donations. I could end this right now. Please, Ava whispered. Help me. Louis knocked again, more insistent this time. I made my decision. Go clean yourself up, I told Ava. I'll handle Louis. As she disappeared into the bathroom, I opened the door to face Louis's worried expression. Is she okay? He asked immediately. I paused, the truth burning on my tongue. She's resting. Behind me, I heard Ava's muffled sobs. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with more suspicious comments. And somewhere in my conscience, a voice that sounded suspiciously like Victoria's whispered, "What are you doing?" But I just smiled at Louis and said, "Everything's fine. She'll call you later about the appointment." Another lie to protect my sister. But as I closed the door, I wondered who I was really protecting anymore. The baby shower is this weekend, Mom announced, arranging pink and blue balloons around the country club's entrance, and still no word on whether it's a boy or girl. Ava, darling, can't you give us a hint? I watched my sister freeze, her hand instinctively touching the increasingly elaborate fake bump she'd constructed. We want it to be a surprise. But the gender reveal was supposed to be the highlight of the shower. Mom's face fell. I ordered this beautiful cake that changes color when you cut it. Maybe we could do something else special instead, I interrupted, catching Ava's panicked look. Like a live ultrasound photo reveal. Ava's face went pale. No, that's too private. Mom's eyes narrowed. Come to think of it, we haven't seen any ultrasound photos at all. The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear Ava's heart racing. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone. Ava sent me one last week. Let me find it. You did? Ava's voice cracked. I pulled up a carefully edited ultrasound image I'd created days ago. Insurance against exactly this kind of moment. Here it is. Mom squealed with delight, but Louis, who'd been quietly arranging gift tables, walked over with a frown. I didn't know you had an ultrasound last week, he said. I thought you canceled that appointment. I rescheduled it, Ava stammered. You were busy with work, and Reagan offered to come with me. That's funny, Louis continued, his voice hardening, because I called every OBGYN in the area. None of them have you as a patient. The balloon Mom was holding slipped from her fingers and drifted to the ceiling. What do you mean, none of them? She asked. Ava. Louis stepped closer. What's going on? I watched my sister's carefully constructed world begin to crumble. Her hands trembled as she clutched her fake bump, mascara already starting to run. I can explain, she whispered. Explain what? Mom demanded. Ava, why wouldn't you be registered with a doctor when you're 5 months pregnant? Because she's not pregnant, Louis said quietly. Are you, Ava? The country club door swung open, and Victoria walked in, stopping short at the scene before her. Oh shit! Of course she's pregnant, Mom protested. Look at her. We've all seen her growing. We've been planning this shower for weeks. She's got thousands of followers tracking her journey. Mrs. Harper, Lewis cut in. When was the last time you actually saw Ava without loose clothes or that oversized coat? Ava backed away, bumping into a table of gifts. A stuffed animal toppled to the floor. Reagan, she pleaded, looking at me. Help me. I felt everyone's eyes turn to me. This was it, the moment I'd been orchestrating for weeks. The perfect public revelation of Ava's lies. But seeing her there, cornered and terrified, I hesitated. I started. Reagan knows everything, Victoria suddenly announced. She's been documenting all of it. Mom spun to face me. What is she talking about? My phone felt heavy in my pocket, loaded with evidence. The fake registry, the edited photos, the suspicious receipts, everything needed to destroy my sister's carefully crafted illusion. Show them, Victoria urged. Show them what she's been doing. Ava's eyes met mine, filled with tears, and something else, resignation. She knew I had the power to end this right now. I can't do this anymore, Ava suddenly announced, her voice shaking. She reached under her dress and pulled out the elaborate padding. Mom, Lewis, I'm so sorry. The stuffing fell to the floor with a soft thud. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. All those people who sent gifts, Lewis said, his voice hollow. The money they donated. I'll pay everyone back, Ava sobbed. I'll explain everything. Just please don't hate me. Mom sank into a nearby chair, staring at the fake bump on the floor. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this? I stepped forward, ready to share the evidence I'd gathered, ready to expose every calculated move in Ava's deception. But looking at my sister, really looking at her, I saw something I'd missed before, the same desperate need for approval I'd always felt myself. Because, I heard myself say, sometimes living up to expectations feels impossible. Victoria shot me a sharp look. This wasn't the exposure we'd planned. The shower's in 2 days, Mom said faintly. All those people coming. I'll handle it, I said, making a decision that would change everything. I'm a crisis manager. This is what I do. Ava looked at me with confusion and hope. You'll help me? Yes, I replied, deleting the draft post I'd prepared exposing her lies. But this time, we're going to tell the truth. The question was, could any of us handle what that truth would reveal about our family? You can't just cancel a baby shower with 50 guests coming tomorrow, Mom said, pacing our family living room. What will people think? They'll think whatever we tell them, I replied, typing rapidly on my laptop. That's the point of crisis management. Ava sat curled in the corner of the couch, looking smaller than I'd seen her in years. I could still fake a miscarriage. No, Lewis and I said simultaneously. Dad cleared his throat from his armchair. I don't understand. Why did you feel you needed to make this up? Because being just Ava was never enough, she burst out. Reagan's the successful one, the smart one, the one with the real career. I'm just the pretty sister with the Instagram account. That's not true, Mom protested. You're special in your own way. Really? Ava's laugh was bitter. Name one real achievement of mine you've celebrated that wasn't based on a lie. The silence that followed was devastating. See? Ava whispered. Even you can't think of anything. My fingers paused over the keyboard. I thought about all the times I'd resented Ava's spotlight, never considering how artificial that light might feel to her. The shower starts at 2 tomorrow, Victoria said, checking her phone. We need a plan. I have one, I said. We're still having the shower, but instead of it being a baby shower, it's going to be a confession. What? Ava shot up. I can't. You can, and you will. I turned my laptop to show them the draft of the statement I'd prepared. You're going to tell the truth, but we're going to control the narrative. How exactly do you control I faked a pregnancy for attention? Lewis asked. By making it about mental health, social media pressure, and the toxic culture of constant performance, I explained. Ava's going to admit everything, apologize sincerely, and announce she's taking steps to get help. Help? Mom frowned. What kind of help? I've already called Dr. Sanders, I said, referring to my own therapist. She's willing to take Ava on as a patient. This isn't just about the fake pregnancy. It's about why Ava felt she needed to create this fiction in the first place. And the gifts? Dad asked. The money. All being returned with personal apology notes. Victoria chimed in, holding up a stack of envelopes. I've been working on them all afternoon. Ava stood up shakily. Can I see the statement? I handed her my laptop. As she read, tears began rolling down her cheeks. This makes me sound human, she said, finally. Not just crazy or attention-seeking. Because you are human, I replied. And humans make mistakes. Some bigger than others, Lewis muttered. Lewis, I turned to him. You need to decide right now if you're staying or going. Because if you stay, you need to support this narrative. No angry accusations, no public recriminations. He looked at Ava for a long moment. I need some air, he said finally, and walked out. Mom started to cry. Where did we go wrong? How did we not see this coming? Maybe because we were too busy seeing what we wanted to see, Dad said quietly. In both our daughters. My phone buzzed. Another comment on Ava's latest post, questioning the authenticity of her pregnancy. The whispers were turning into shouts. We need to post the statement tonight, I said, before the rumors get worse. Tonight? Ava paled. I'm not ready. You'll never be ready, Victoria said gently. But you need to do it anyway. Ava took a deep breath, then pulled out her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen. What if everyone hates me? Some people will, I said honestly. But others will understand, and more importantly, you'll finally be free of the lies. Will you? She looked at me pleadingly. Will you help me film it? I nodded, picking up my phone. Just speak from the heart. Tell the truth. The whole truth, she asked, glancing at our parents. I understood what she meant. The truth wasn't just about the fake pregnancy. It was about years of pressure, of feeling inadequate, of our family's complicated dynamics. The whole truth, I confirmed. It's time. Mom and Dad watched silently as I set up the lighting, positioned Ava on the couch, and started recording. Hi everyone, Ava began, her voice trembling. I need to tell you something important, something I should have told you weeks ago. As she spoke, I watched our parents' faces, saw the shock, the pain, and finally, the understanding dawn, as Ava revealed not just what she'd done, but why she'd done it. I'm sorry, she finished, tears streaming freely now. To everyone I've deceived, to my family, to myself. Tomorrow I'm facing everyone in person to apologize. And then I'm getting help to become someone I can be proud of, someone real. I stopped recording and looked at the time. In less than 24 hours, we'd face a room full of people expecting a baby shower and getting a confession instead. Are you ready for tomorrow? Victoria asked softly. Ava wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, and for the first time in weeks, looked truly like herself. No, she said. But I'm doing it anyway. The country club ballroom felt suffocating. Despite the high ceilings and open windows, guests filtered in, cooing over the decorations and piling gifts on the designated table. Each present felt like another brick in the wall of guilt we'd have to tear down. They're all here, Victoria whispered, checking her phone. Ava's video has over 100,000 views already. I watched my sister standing by the entrance, greeting guests with trembling hands. She'd chosen a fitted dress today. No more hiding behind fake bumps or loose clothing. Where's Lewis? I asked. Haven't seen him, Victoria replied. But the comments on the video are surprisingly supportive. A lot of women sharing similar stories about social media pressure. Mom appeared beside us, clutching a glass of wine. Several people are asking about the gender reveal cake. There won't be a reveal, Mom, I reminded her gently. Just a revelation. Ava's voice cut through the growing crowd. Can I have everyone's attention, please? The room quieted. Phones came out. ready to document what they thought would be a joyous announcement. Instead, they'd witness something far more raw. "First, I want to thank you all for coming," Ava began, her voice shaking. "And I need to apologize, because I've been lying to all of you." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I moved closer to my sister, ready to support her if she faltered. "I'm not pregnant," Ava continued. "I never was. The posts, the updates, the registry, it was all fake." Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a glass. "I know many of you sent gifts and donations," she pressed on, even as tears started falling. "Everything will be returned with my deepest apologies. But more than the material things, I need to apologize for betraying your trust." "How could you?" a voice called out. "Do you know how many people you've hurt?" "Yes," Ava replied, surprising me with her steadiness. "I do. Every comment, every like, every donation felt like another weight crushing me. But I couldn't stop, because for once in my life, people were seeing me." The back door opened, and Louis walked in quietly, standing at the edge of the crowd. "The truth is," Ava continued, "I've been living a carefully curated lie. Not just these past weeks, but for years. Always trying to be extraordinary, because being ordinary felt like failing." I saw Mom wipe away tears, Dad's arm tight around her shoulders. "Social media made it easy to fake perfection," Ava said, "to create a life that looked amazing from the outside. But inside, I was drowning in lies, desperate for validation I couldn't give myself." "So you decided to fake a pregnancy?" someone asked incredulously. "No," Ava shook her head. "I decided to fake being happy. The pregnancy was just the biggest lie in a long string of them. And I'm done lying." She pulled out her phone, opened Instagram, and held it up for everyone to see. "Right now, I'm deleting my influencer account. All the sponsored posts, all the fake achievements, all gone. I'm starting therapy tomorrow, learning to be real instead of just looking real." Her finger hovered over the delete button. The room held its breath. "Wait," Louis's voice cut through the tension. He walked forward, stopping in front of Ava. "Are you doing this for you or for them?" Ava looked at him, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time in months. "For me," she said firmly. "I want to be someone who doesn't need likes to feel worthy." Louis nodded slowly. "Then I'm staying." "Even after everything?" "Even after everything." Ava pressed delete. The account that had consumed her life disappeared in an instant. "I know this isn't the baby shower you expected," she addressed the crowd again, "and I understand if you can't forgive me, but I hope my story can help someone else who's struggling with the pressure to be perfect." Silence filled the room. Then, from the back, someone started clapping. Others joined in, not in celebration, but in acknowledgement of raw honesty. I stepped forward, taking Ava's hand. "The gifts will be returned tomorrow," I announced, "and any donations will be refunded by the end of the week." "Actually," a woman spoke up, one of Mom's book club friends, "could you donate my gift to the women's shelter instead? They always need baby supplies." Others began nodding, murmuring agreement. "We'll coordinate the donations," Victoria offered, already making notes on her phone. Gradually, people began approaching Ava, not to condemn, but to share. Stories of their own social media struggles, of pressure to perform, of lies they'd lived. "You did it," I whispered to my sister. She squeezed my hand. "No, we did it. I couldn't have faced this alone." "You're not alone," Louis said, taking her other hand. "Not anymore." As the crowd mingled, sharing stories and tears, Mom and Dad joined us. "We need to talk," Dad said, "as a family, about everything." Ava nodded. "No more pretending." "No more pretending," Mom agreed, pulling both her daughters into a hug. The baby shower had become something else entirely, not a celebration of new life, but of rebirth. And looking at my sister, stripped of filters and fakery, I saw something I'd missed before. She was finally, truly beginning to glow. "Ready for your first day?" I asked, watching Ava adjust her name badge in the office bathroom mirror. As ready as I'll ever be, she replied, smoothing down her blazer. Thanks for helping me get this job. Hey, our crisis management firm needs good social media coordinators. Just try not to fake any client pregnancies. She laughed. A real laugh, not the practiced giggle from her influencer days. One identity crisis per lifetime is enough. Thanks. Victoria poked her head in. Staff meeting in 5. The new client's waiting. Walking into the conference room, I watched Ava take her seat beside me, opening a fresh notebook. No phone in sight. Part of her ongoing digital detox. Before we start, our director announced, I want to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Yes, Ava is Reagan's sister. Yes, she's the one from that viral confession video. And yes, that's exactly why we hired her. Who better to help clients navigate social media scandals than someone who's lived through one? Ava blushed, but held her head high. 3 months of therapy had given her a different kind of confidence, quieter, but more real. Speaking of scandals, Victoria pulled up a presentation. Our new client is dealing with. The conference room door burst open. Mom stood there looking flustered. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but this couldn't wait. She thrust a paper toward Ava. Look what came in the mail. Ava read it, her eyes widening. I got accepted. To the journalism program? Full scholarship. Mom beamed. The admissions board was particularly impressed by your personal essay about social media ethics and accountability. The room erupted in congratulations. I felt my throat tighten with unexpected emotion. Mom, I said quietly, you never burst into my office when I got my crisis management certification. The room went silent. Mom's smile faltered. You're right, she said slowly. I didn't. Because I always expected you to succeed, Reagan. You were the reliable one, the achiever. I never worried about you. Maybe you should have, I replied. Maybe we both needed you to worry sometimes. Ava reached for my hand under the table. I'm not the only one who's been in therapy, am I? I squeezed her hand back. Let's just say Dr. Sanders has been busy with both Nora's sisters. Girls, Mom said, pulling up a chair, apparently forgetting this was a business meeting. I've been doing a lot of thinking about how I treated you both. Ava, I enabled your need for attention because I was afraid you'd fail otherwise. And Reagan, I neglected your need for validation because I assumed you didn't need it. Mrs. Harper, our director interrupted gently. Perhaps this conversation. No, I said firmly. This needs to happen right here because everyone in this room has seen our family's mess play out online. They should see the cleanup too. Victoria started recording on her phone. For the case studies, she whispered. I'm proud of both of you, Mom continued. Not for what you achieve, but for who you are. Ava, your honesty in facing your mistakes. Reagan, your strength in supporting your sister even when you wanted revenge. You knew about that? I asked, surprised. Please, Mom smiled. I raised you both. You think I didn't see your anonymous Instagram account gathering evidence? Ava turned to me. You really deleted all of it? The night you decided to tell the truth, I confirmed. Because that took more courage than my revenge ever could. Speaking of courage, Victoria interjected. Louis wanted me to remind you about dinner tonight. Something about a special announcement. Ava twisted her hands nervously. He's taking me to meet his family. For real this time. No fake stories, no filtered photos. Just me. They'll love you, I assured her. Maybe, she shrugged. But more importantly, I like who I am now. Most days, anyway. Mom stood up, finally remembering this was a workplace. I should go. But dinner Sunday, both of you, your father's cooking. Dad's cooking. Ava and I exchanged alarmed looks. Maybe we should stick to takeout. The laughter that followed felt genuine, unforced. As Mom left and our meeting resumed, I watched Ava take notes, ask questions, engage with our team, without once reaching for her phone to document the moment. Later, as we grabbed coffee from the break room, she turned to me. You know what's weird? I have fewer followers now than ever, but I've never felt more seen. That's because people are finally seeing you, not your highlight reel. Including you? She asked softly. I thought about my wedding day, about the months of plotting revenge, about the moment I chose truth over retribution. Especially me, I replied. Though I still think you owe me a drama-free wedding do-over. Deal, she grinned. But this time, I promise, no announcements, no stealing the spotlight, and definitely no fake babies. I'll drink to that, Victoria peered with 3 coffee cups. To the Norris sisters, finally keeping it real. We clinked our paper cups together, leaving lipstick marks and laughter in the quiet of the break room. Outside, life continued its messy, unfiltered way, but for once, neither of us felt the need to perfect it.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I will not approve your request for paid leave, she stated firmly, leaving me utterly stunned. Her next words were even more shocking. You constantly challenge my decisions. You don't have to return to work here. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I had reached my limit. Are you sure about this? I asked, hoping she'd reconsider. Her reaction, eyes wide with surprise, showed she hadn't expected my pushback. It's unfortunate, really. My name is Ava, and this year I celebrated my 25th birthday. For 7 years, I've devoted myself to the corporation, making me one of the more seasoned employees despite my young age. My upbringing wasn't luxurious by any means. Our family had modest means, but my parents loved me unconditionally. As an only child, I didn't have the luxury of new clothes or toys. Most of what I wore were hand-me-downs from cousins or the children of family friends. Despite this, I was happy. My family's love and the community's kindness filled my childhood with joy. I have cherished memories of weekend picnics in the park with my parents. My academic journey was notable too. In the 13th grade, I was elected president of the student council and maintained stellar grades throughout. My teachers saw potential in me, suggesting I continue my education with the scholarship I'd been offered. However, I had a different path in mind. College wasn't in my plans. I aspired to serve the public as a civil servant. My decision was driven by a desire to alleviate the financial burden on my parents as quickly as possible, despite their protests. Then, tragedy struck. My father fell ill and passed away before I could show my gratitude for all he had done for me. It became my mission to take care of my mother, stepping into the role my father had left behind. As years went by, I found my footing at work, earning the respect of my colleagues and leading a fulfilling life. My role involved training new employees and occasionally stepping in for my boss. The job came with good bonuses, allowing me to support my family with around $800 every month. Outside of work, life was rich with travels and adventures with friends, colleagues, and my boyfriend. Change is the only constant, they say. Our team experienced this firsthand when our manager was transferred, and in came a new leader. The new female manager, we learned, was none other than the president's daughter. Rumors flew about her lack of real-world experience, suggesting she had been coasting on her family status. The workplace dynamic shifted overnight. The new manager, who happened to be the company president's daughter, had been leading a life of leisure thanks to her family's wealth. Recognizing she needed a reality check, her father decided it was time for her to learn some responsibility by giving her a significant role within the company. This was a secret plan known only to the president and myself, intended to instill in her the value of hard work. However, her appointment was met with skepticism by many colleagues, aware of her lack of experience and her privileged background. The office atmosphere became tense, with a noticeable shift in dynamics that hinted trouble might soon find its way to me. One day, the trouble indeed arrived when I prepared a cup of hot coffee for her, following her specific instructions. However, her response was anything but grateful. "What is this? Are you trying to irritate me?" she snapped, looking at the coffee with disdain before abruptly throwing it in my direction. I couldn't dodge in time, and the hot liquid splashed onto my arm, causing immediate pain. I defended myself, saying, "I made it exactly as you asked." But she contested, claiming her request was for a drink that was warm, with an exaggerated amount of milk and sugar, far more than what is typically considered reasonable. Her reaction was a clear display of imposing her unreasonable standards onto others, a habit that seemed ingrained in her behavior. Apologizing, I offered to make another cup, despite her condescending remarks about my education and supposed competence. The sting from the burn on my arm became a physical reminder of the uncomfortable situation I found myself in. Despite looking forward to working with her based on the high praise from her father, the reality was turning out to be bitterly disappointing. Her harshness prompted an attempt from a colleague to intervene, but I signaled for them to back off, wary of becoming her next target. It had become a pattern. Those who crossed her often ended up pressured to leave the company. And now, it seemed, it was my turn to be in her crosshairs. As I was contemplating my next steps, she escalated the situation by grabbing my injured arm and squeezing it, as if to prove a point about her dominance. Her actions only fueled my determination to find a way out of this predicament. I managed to excuse myself, heading to the pantry to tend to my burn, all the while lamenting the turn my day had taken. The incident left a lasting impression, not just on my skin, but on my perception of leadership and the importance of empathy in the workplace. It underscored the necessity for genuine understanding and respect among colleagues, regardless of their positions or backgrounds. Right after the coffee incident, I sought treatment from a dermatologist who gave me an ointment. Unfortunately, the burn didn't heal completely and left a scar. To avoid drawing attention and concern from others, I started dressing in a way that concealed it. However, the incident seemed to embolden her. Her behavior towards me worsened. Her harassment intensified over trivial matters, such as when she criticized a document I'd prepared. "What's this? It's full of errors. Don't you take your responsibilities seriously?" she snapped. Trying to remain calm, I asked her to clarify what she found wrong, but she responded by hurling the document at me. According to her, the document was flawed throughout, marked excessively with a red pen, an approach I found rather immature for someone her age. "Honestly, this needs to be completely redone." "You seem to have missed the mark entirely," I suggested, aiming to keep the conversation constructive despite her provocations. I had been trying to help her adapt to our team, sharing with her the same guidance I'd offered new employees, hoping she would catch on. But my efforts seemed in vain. She retorted dismissively, "I'm the manager. I shouldn't have to do these tasks. That's your job." Her arrogance was unyielding, even suggesting that my attempts to help were driven by a desire to gain favor with her father, the president. She unexpectedly brought up my family, mocking the fact that I came from a less privileged background and was raised by a single parent after my father's illness and subsequent death. Her words were meant to sting, but I refused to let her see how much they affected me. "Let's keep our focus on work-related issues," I insisted, though her cruel attempt to belittle my family's struggles angered me. She seemed to take pleasure in provoking a reaction, hinting at her intention to complain to her father about me. Unfazed, I encouraged her to do so and asked her to correct and resubmit the document she had criticized. As I walked away, she muttered a threat under her breath, but I chose to ignore it, focusing instead on guiding her through the basics of her role. Despite her resistance, I managed to teach her some fundamental skills, like basic computer operations and document handling. Yet, it was clear we had a long way to go. I found solace during breaks, sitting on a bench outside, reflecting on the challenges and how best to navigate the complex dynamics at work. Despite the difficult circumstances, I remained committed to performing my duties and helping where I could, always with the hope that things might improve. During a break on the office rooftop, while sipping on some soothing Kent coffee and contemplating my future, an unexpected call disrupted the momentary peace. The voice on the other end introduced themselves as someone from Saver Hospital, delivering the heart-wrenching news that my mother had been urgently admitted in a critical state. My world seemed to stop. I struggled to process the information, my mind going completely blank. Acting on autopilot, I scribbled a quick note to inform my boss of my immediate departure and hailed a taxi to rush to the hospital. Upon arrival, after explaining my situation to the reception, a kind nurse led me to where my mother was being cared for. The sight of her, so peaceful yet so vulnerable, was overwhelming. The doctors informed me that she had collapsed at work due to her long-standing heart condition, which, despite being stable until now, might have been aggravated by the emotional stress following my father's passing. Overcome with grief, I held her close, tears streaming down my face. In the days that followed, as we prepared for the funeral, I reached out to my manager, Allison, to request my very first period of paid leave, explaining the tragic loss of my mother. Her response was cold and devoid of sympathy, outright refusing my request and suggesting that if I had issues with this decision, I need not return to work. Her words cut deep, marking a turning point for me. After years of dedication to the company without a single day off, her refusal felt like the ultimate betrayal. In the moment, I resolved to accept her challenge, ending the call abruptly. The funeral was a blur of emotions, but I found solace in keeping busy, grateful for the kindness shown by friends and colleagues. Ignoring subsequent attempts by my manager to contact me, I took the time I needed to grieve and reflect. 3 weeks later, a call from the president of the company prompted me to return to the office, ready to face whatever awaited me, fortified by the trials I had endured. Upon returning to the office, my first destination was the president's office. On my way, I encountered 2 colleagues who offered their condolences. Their support was a small comfort in light of the circumstances. "Excuse me, I need to see the president," I explained, their kindness warming my heart amidst the chill of recent events. At the president's door, I knocked and asked, "It's Ava, may I come in?" The response was swift, inviting me into the room. "Hello, Ava. It's been a while. I heard you've been away for 3 weeks." "That doesn't sound like you," the president greeted, a mix of concern and curiosity in his voice. I didn't hold back. I shared every detail of my recent experiences, including how the manager, his daughter, had been treating not just me, but also others in the department. It must have been difficult for him to hear such things about his daughter, but he listened attentively, his face reflecting a mix of sorrow and understanding. "I'm truly sorry for what my daughter has done. My wife and I may have been too lenient with her. And this is the result," he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. The president's acknowledgement of his part in the situation, his openness to seeing his daughter's flaws, made the conversation easier than I anticipated. "Ava, you've shown great strength and integrity. My decision regarding my daughter was misguided, and for that, I apologize," he continued, promising to reach out to those who had felt compelled to leave because of her actions. He then shared something that took me by surprise. The entire department had staged a protest in my absence. "I had no idea things had gotten so bad," I admitted, shocked by the extent of the unrest. "We need your help, Ava. Simply having my daughter step down won't fix everything. Can you assist us in making things right?" he asked, his earnest gaze meeting mine. Without hesitation, I agreed. The well-being of the team and the department was too important to ignore. As I was gearing up to help mend the situation, Allison, the manager in question, reached out in desperation. "How long will you be taking off?" she asked, her voice laced with frustration and confusion. It seemed she had forgotten it was she who suggested I need not return. "The office is in chaos. We need you back," she implored, ignoring her previous stance. With a sense of duty, I returned to the office, only to find it deserted and silent, an eerie echo of normalcy. It was then, amidst the quiet, that I heard an outburst from the direction of my department. Approaching cautiously, I found Allison amidst a meltdown, blaming me for the department's disarray. "It's your fault. Everyone left after you did, and now I can't get hold of anyone. How are you going to fix this?" she accused, her frustration boiling over. "I'm not sure I follow." "It's not fair to pin this on me," I replied, maintaining my composure despite her unfounded accusations. She eventually backed down, but the interaction left a bitter taste. It was clear that resolving the department's issues would be no small task, but with the president's trust and the support of my colleagues, I was ready to face the challenge head-on. As I stepped into the once bustling office, now eerily silent, I found Allison in disarray. The office had been without its team for merely half a day, and the effect was palpable. Allison, once the epitome of control and authority, now seemed lost, overwhelmed by the unfamiliar task of handling incoming calls herself. Her appearance, usually meticulous, had given way to dishevelment. Her hair unkempt, her once immaculate nail polish chipped, and her jacket, presumably discarded in haste, bore signs of wear. Observing her in this state, a part of me couldn't suppress a chuckle. "Looks like the tables have turned," I commented, unable to hide my amusement at the irony. Her response was quick, fueled by a mix of embarrassment and anger. "What did you just say? This mess is your doing," she accused, her face flushing with frustration. I stood my ground. No one is willing to follow a leader who relies solely on authority without genuine competence. Her anger escalated, threatening to fire me and claim control over the company, a claim that seemed more out of desperation than conviction. Her confidence, however, seemed to waver as I calmly accepted her decree. Surprised by my lack of resistance, she stared at me, incredulous. "You do understand you're being fired, right?" she pressed. Acknowledging her statement, I began to collect my belongings, navigating through the chaos of papers strewn about the floor. As I did, she hesitated, questioning my immediate compliance. "Are you seriously resigning?" Her earlier bravado had evaporated, replaced by a hint of desperation. "Shouldn't you at least finish the day's work?" she suggested, her voice betraying her concern. I paused, taking the opportunity to remind her of the legal implications of her actions, specifically the illegality of denying justified paid leave. Her complexion paled as the reality of her situation set in. I pressed further, emphasizing the human aspect of our work environment and her unsuitability for her managerial role, hinting at the deeper issue of empathy and understanding within leadership. Her defense, a personal attack on my family, mirrored her earlier insult towards mine, showcasing the cycle of disrespect she perpetuated. Despite her attempts to differentiate us, I pointed out the similarity in her actions towards those who had previously left under her management. Her attempts to justify her behavior only highlighted her inability to see the impact of her actions on others, further cementing my decision to leave. The confrontation, while tense, underscored the vast differences in our values and approach to leadership and respect within the workplace. Feeling utterly dismissed, I couldn't help but release a deep sigh as I glanced towards the corridor, my thoughts interrupted by Allison's confused murmur. "Dad, why are you here?" In that moment, the president entered the scene, his presence demanding attention. As Allison attempted to defend herself, blaming her failures on others' envy and claiming innocence, the president was quick to counter, showcasing evidence of her misconduct. The confrontation escalated quickly. The president, visibly disappointed, chastised her for her incompetence and the negative impact her leadership had had on the company. Despite her pleas and promises to improve, he made a firm decision to send her away for a real-life lesson in humility, far from the corporate comforts she was accustomed to, in a rural setting where her previous status held no sway. Left to her own devices, Allison faced a reality far removed from her previous life. Stripped of her managerial title and placed in an environment where she had to earn respect anew, she began to show signs of genuine change, acknowledging her mistakes and gradually adopting a more respectful and receptive attitude towards feedback. Back at the office, the mood had lightened considerably. The president's decision to grant the employees a day off in light of recent events was met with gratitude, and upon their return, there was a palpable sense of relief and optimism. Allison's departure marked a turning point, allowing for a restoration of peace and camaraderie among the team. In an unexpected turn of events, I received an apologetic call from Allison, who expressed a desire to return. However, recognizing the depth of her previous actions and their impact, I declined her request, prioritizing the well-being and stability of the team over her personal redemption journey. The president's efforts to reconcile with those affected by Allison's tenure paid off, resulting in not only the return of valuable team members, but also a noticeable improvement in the company's overall performance. As for myself, stepping into the role of manager brought its own set of challenges, but with the support of my colleagues and a newfound confidence in my abilities, I navigated these responsibilities with a sense of purpose and commitment. In a beautiful twist of fate, amidst the professional upheaval, My personal life flourished. My partner of 1 year proposed, filling me with indescribable joy. As we prepare for the arrival of our child next year, our hearts are full of anticipation and happiness. The journey here hasn't been easy, marked by both physical and emotional trials, but the unwavering support of those around me and the compensation I received for the hardships endured have paved the way for a brighter, more fulfilling future.
"Remember how we switched roles?" said my old classmate as she stood before me. Back in middle school, she was vibrant and healthy, but now she looked entirely different. She gave me a weak smile. She was much thinner. Why had she been so kind to me? What had happened to her? Curious and concerned, I invited her to a cafe to catch up and learn about her journey since middle school. Her story was so moving that it nearly brought me to tears. "My name is Logan. I'm just a regular guy, or so I wish I could say, but my life's a bit more complicated. It's just been my mom and me for as long as I can remember. My dad left us for someone else, and I barely remember his face. Life without him became our new normal. My mom, a single parent, never complained. She worked tirelessly every day, loving me more than anything. I wanted to make her proud and not be a burden, but sometimes effort alone isn't enough. When my dad left, he took all our savings with him, probably to spoil his new partner. This left us struggling financially, more than most. We lived in a very cheap apartment and sometimes could only afford one meal a day. Middle school was tough. There were no school meals, and with my mom working from dawn till dusk, she didn't have the energy to pack lunch for me. I didn't want to ask her to do more, so I tried to fend for myself. My attempts at cooking were disastrous. My first try at making lunch ended with something so burnt it looked like it could swallow me whole. My mom wasn't a great cook, but she could manage something edible, unlike me. So, my lunch was often just a slice of bread with strawberry jam. At school, I felt out of place as others enjoyed lunches prepared by their families. I envied them and felt small and isolated. To avoid the discomfort, I'd eat alone, away from everyone else. My options were the rooftop, behind the gym, or somewhere else secluded. The rooftop was locked, dispelling any drama series-inspired fantasies. So, behind the gym became my spot where I could enjoy my solitude. One day, running late because of committee work, I rushed to my usual lunch spot behind the gym, only to find someone already there. It was Isla, a classmate and the daughter of a wealthy business magnate. Despite her status, she was kind and unpretentious. We weren't close, just familiar classmates. There she was, squatting in front of a drain, doing something unexpected. As I watched from a distance, curiosity piqued when I noticed Isla, my classmate, behind the gym. She was fiddling with her lunchbox, which seemed precariously close to spilling its contents. And then, exactly as I had feared, it happened. The contents fell, prompting an involuntary exclamation from me. "What a waste!" Startled by my voice, Isla quickly hid her lunch behind her back, caught off guard by my sudden appearance. Apologizing for startling her, I couldn't help but ask about the lunch she seemed ready to discard. Coming from a wealthy family, I wondered why she would waste such a meal. My hunger, amplified by a strenuous gym class, made me bold enough to ask if I could have it if she wasn't going to eat it. The thought of any food was tantalizing, but her lunch looked particularly inviting, far more substantial than what a single slice of bread could offer. To my surprise and relief, Isla agreed, perhaps swayed by my polite request. Overjoyed, I eagerly accepted her offer, only to faint from the overwhelming relief and hunger. When I regained consciousness, the lunchbox was empty, and the lingering taste of a tangy sauce was all that remained. After expressing my gratitude, Isla's curiosity about my usual lunch led to a revelation. All I had was a slice of bread with jam. This seemed to genuinely surprise her, prompting a conversation about my family's situation and the struggles my mom and I faced. It was a moment of vulnerability I hadn't shared with anyone else. Isla, in turn, shared her own story. Despite her affluent background, she faced challenges with her stepmother, who would deliberately pack lunches that were too large or filled with foods Isla disliked. This was a form of harassment, subtle yet cruel, leaving Isla in a difficult position. Understanding each other's predicaments, we found solace in sharing lunches and stories behind the gym. This new routine became a cherished part of our day, allowing us both to feel less isolated and more understood. Our friendship blossomed in these moments, sharing not just meals but also our experiences and dreams. Isla's talent in art and my newfound sense of belonging transformed my middle school days from a time of hardship to one of cherished memories. We supported each other through our unique challenges, finding joy and companionship in the simplest of gestures: a shared meal, a listening ear, and the mutual respect that comes from truly understanding another's struggles. "Remember how we switched roles?" said my old classmate as she stood before me. Back in middle school, she was vibrant and healthy, but now she looked entirely different. She gave me a weak smile. She was much thinner. Why had she been so kind to me? What had happened to her? Curious and concerned, I invited her to a cafe to catch up and learn about her journey since middle school. Her story was so moving that it nearly brought me to tears. "My name is Logan. I'm just a regular guy, or so I wish I could say, but my life's a bit more complicated. It's just been my mom and me for as long as I can remember. My dad left us for someone else, and I barely remember his face. Life without him became our new normal. My mom, a single parent, never complained. She worked tirelessly every day, loving me more than anything. I wanted to make her proud and not be a burden, but sometimes effort alone isn't enough. When my dad left, he took all our savings with him, probably to spoil his new partner. This left us struggling financially, more than most. We lived in a very cheap apartment and sometimes could only afford one meal a day. Middle school was tough. There were no school meals, and with my mom working from dawn till dusk, she didn't have the energy to pack lunch for me. I didn't want to ask her to do more, so I tried to fend for myself. My attempts at cooking were disastrous. My first try at making lunch ended with something so burnt it looked like it could swallow me whole. My mom wasn't a great cook, but she could manage something edible, unlike me. So, my lunch was often just a slice of bread with strawberry jam. At school, I felt out of place as others enjoyed lunches prepared by their families. I envied them and felt small and isolated. To avoid the discomfort, I'd eat alone, away from everyone else. My options were the rooftop, behind the gym, or somewhere else secluded. The rooftop was locked, dispelling any drama series-inspired fantasies. So, behind the gym became my spot where I could enjoy my solitude. One day, running late because of committee work, I rushed to my usual lunch spot behind the gym, only to find someone already there. It was Isla, a classmate and the daughter of a wealthy business magnate. Despite her status, she was kind and unpretentious. We weren't close, just familiar classmates. There she was, squatting in front of a drain, doing something unexpected. As I watched from a distance, curiosity piqued when I noticed Isla, my classmate, behind the gym. She was fiddling with her lunchbox, which seemed precariously close to spilling its contents. And then, exactly as I had feared, it happened. The contents fell, prompting an involuntary exclamation from me. "What a waste!" Startled by my voice, Isla quickly hid her lunch behind her back, caught off guard by my sudden appearance. Apologizing for startling her, I couldn't help but ask about the lunch she seemed ready to discard. Coming from a wealthy family, I wondered why she would waste such a meal. My hunger, amplified by a strenuous gym class, made me bold enough to ask if I could have it if she wasn't going to eat it. The thought of any food was tantalizing, but her lunch looked particularly inviting, far more substantial than what a single slice of bread could offer. To my surprise and relief, Isla agreed, perhaps swayed by my polite request. Overjoyed, I eagerly accepted her offer, only to faint from the overwhelming relief and hunger. When I regained consciousness, the lunchbox was empty, and the lingering taste of a tangy sauce was all that remained. After expressing my gratitude, Isla's curiosity about my usual lunch led to a revelation. All I had was a slice of bread with jam. This seemed to genuinely surprise her, prompting a conversation about my family's situation and the struggles my mom and I faced. It was a moment of vulnerability I hadn't shared with anyone else. Isla, in turn, shared her own story. Despite her affluent background, she faced challenges with her stepmother, who would deliberately pack lunches that were too large or filled with foods Isla disliked. This was a form of harassment, subtle yet cruel, leaving Isla in a difficult position. Understanding each other's predicaments, we found solace in sharing lunches and stories behind the gym. This new routine became a cherished part of our day, allowing us both to feel less isolated and more understood. Our friendship blossomed in these moments, sharing not just meals but also our experiences and dreams. Isla's talent in art and my newfound sense of belonging transformed my middle school days from a time of hardship to one of cherished memories. We supported each other through our unique challenges, finding joy and companionship in the simplest of gestures: a shared meal, a listening ear, and the mutual respect that comes from truly understanding another's struggles. Once a radiant figure admired by all, Isla's life took a drastic turn due to archaic beliefs and the callousness of her own family, leaving her education and dreams shattered. Feeling a deep sense of gratitude and a desire to help, I proposed an idea to Isla. I was working at a design firm, a venture started by my stepfather, where I led the media content department. Despite the initial advantage of family connections, I had carved out my own place in the company through hard work and talent. We were in need of an illustrator with a gentle, warm touch for a project, and Isla, with her natural talent for drawing, was the perfect candidate. I remembered the illustrations on the hamburger wrappers, unmistakably Isla's work, which had the exact warmth and delicacy our project required. Despite her reluctance, viewing her art merely as a hobby, I convinced her to consider the opportunity. I showed her the wrappers I had collected, highlighting her talent and suggesting she could contribute significantly to our team from home. After some persuasion, Isla agreed to give it a try, and I was thrilled to introduce her to Kevin, my colleague and friend at the design firm. Eager to meet the illustrator who had impressed me so much, Kevin accompanied me to the hamburger shop. The elderly lady greeted us warmly, showcasing Isla's latest illustrations, which Kevin found astonishing. His excitement confirmed that Isla's art was exactly what we were looking for. In this moment of newfound hope and opportunity, Isla, once hidden in the shadows of her past, was on the verge of stepping into the light, her talent about to be recognized and valued. Her journey from despair to a chance at redemption was a testament to the unpredictable turns of life and the power of kindness and perseverance. I couldn't wait any longer to ask Isla to join our project formally. When I did, she humorously pleaded for me to stop my persistent requests, agreeing to take the job. It was a relief, knowing not only that our project had a great chance of success, but also that Isla and I would stay connected. A year after Isla started working with us, her talent as an illustrator became widely recognized. Kevin often joked about how lucky I was to find her, but his envy only made me feel prouder of Isla's achievements. Despite her continued work at the hamburger shop, Isla was honing her skills and even planning an exhibition. Isla's life was progressing smoothly until her ex-husband attempted to reconnect with her, likely due to his business downfall after being ostracized by the Kensington Group, thanks to Isla's father's actions. When Isla sought my advice on her ex's persistent stalking, I decided to work remotely from the hamburger shop to support her. One day, her ex showed up, demanding Isla return with him for a better life. Finding Isla alone as the shop's owners were at the hospital, I intervened, introducing myself as Isla's fiancé to deter him. My claim, backed by the reputation I had built as an executive vice president, scared him off. Later, Isla discovered that it was her stepmother who had barred her return home, not her father. I apologized for pretending to be her fiancé in the moment of crisis, but Isla understood my intentions. Seizing the moment, I confessed my long-held feelings for her, asking her to marry me for real. Our wedding day was simple but beautiful, attended only by close family and the hamburger shop's elderly couple. During the ceremony, Isla and her father reconciled, with him apologizing for the years of hardship caused by his wife's decisions. He vowed to support Isla, moving out to live separately from his wife. This moment of reconciliation brought tears to everyone's eyes, including Isla's father, showcasing a vulnerability he had never revealed before. The ceremony was a heartfelt affirmation of new beginnings and the enduring strength of love and family bonds. Seeing my mother and stepfather's harmonious relationship, I've always aspired to emulate their bond and build a family filled with love and mutual respect. Dreaming of a future with Isla, I imagine us weaving a tapestry of cherished, intimate moments, creating a life filled with joy and companionship. In our envisioned future, I see us perhaps running a quaint hamburger shop, much like the one owned by the elderly couple that played such a pivotal role in our story. With Isla's artistic talent gracing the wrappers, our little shop would undoubtedly attract attention and become a beloved spot. It's a simple dream, but it's ours, filled with love and shared ambitions. Looking at Isla on our wedding day, dressed in a gown that's the epitome of elegance and simplicity, I'm reminded of how our journey began in the most unexpected of places, a small hamburger shop on a shopping street. This unlikely setting forged a connection between us, transforming my once secret admiration in middle school into a profound, loving partnership. When I shared with Isla how her presence now intertwines with my cherished memories from our school days, she revealed a secret of her own. She had been drawing me back then, her sketches a silent testament to her feelings. Hearing this, my heart swelled with love, and I felt a profound gratitude for our shared past and the hopeful anticipation of our future together. This revelation only deepened my affection for her, and as we look forward to our life together, I cherish the thought of growing old with Isla, possibly running our hamburger shop and continuing to create a legacy of love and happiness that could inspire others. Our story, from secret high school crushes to life partners, is a testament to the unexpected ways life can bring people together, turning youthful dreams into a beautiful reality. Nora and Jackson, newlyweds filled with happiness, were over the moon when they found out Nora was pregnant. The thought of adding a new member to their family brought them immense joy. Throughout Nora's pregnancy, Jackson was the rock she could always lean on. He was there for every medical checkup, showing his unwavering support for his wife and their future child. At one of these appointments, the doctor confirmed their baby was doing great, bringing smiles and warmth to both of their hearts. Jackson's gesture of affection towards Nora in that moment showed his deep commitment. They both felt thankful for each other's support and actively prepared for their baby's arrival, picking out nursery items and clothes with great care. When Nora was 25 weeks pregnant, she celebrated her baby shower with close friends. The event was filled with laughter and joy until Nora suddenly felt severe pain. Her friends, concerned, quickly sprang into action, helping her and contacting Jackson. At the hospital, it was confirmed Nora was in labor. Jackson arrived just in time for the birth, and to everyone's surprise, they first welcomed a girl, despite expecting a boy. Jackson was puzzled, recalling their wish for a daughter during a heartfelt chat they once had. Before they could digest this surprise, the doctor announced another baby was on the way, a boy, fulfilling their initial expectation and adding to their joy. But the surprises weren't over. Another baby, making them parents to triplets, was about to arrive. The joy of welcoming not one but 3 new lives into their world left them in awe. The triplets, born prematurely at 25 weeks, needed to stay in the neonatal intensive care unit for a while, adding a mix of concern and happiness to their parents' emotions. Jackson, amidst the joy, sought understanding from the doctor about the unexpected triple blessing, pondering the journey that had led them to this moment. Their story of unexpected joy and the sudden arrival of 3 little ones instead of 1 was a testament to the unpredictable nature of life and the boundless love they were ready to give. Nora was shocked to learn she was having triplets. The doctor explained that sometimes ultrasounds don't catch every baby, especially if they're small or hiding behind each other. This rare occurrence, she mentioned, happens once in a million pregnancies. While this news should have been joyful, Jackson felt overwhelmed at the thought of suddenly having to care for 4 kids. The responsibility weighed heavily on him, stirring a mix of emotions and making it hard for him to adjust to this new reality. As Nora and their newborns, Julian, Lillian, Isaac, and Leah, stayed in the hospital, Jackson spent time at home, lost in thought about their future. When Nora and the babies were ready to leave the hospital, Jackson's mixed feelings created a tense silence on their way home. Nora, sensing something was off, tried to break the ice, but Jackson's response was short, his face a canvas of unspoken feelings. Once home, Nora asked Jackson to buy diapers, hoping this task might help him feel more involved. While he was out, Nora embraced her first moments alone with the children, speaking softly to them as she settled them into their cribs. She then quickly prepared dinner, expecting Jackson's return. However, as time passed, Jackson didn't come back, and Nora, overwhelmed by the crying triplets and no sign of Jackson, tried to contact him, only to find his phone off. In a growing state of panic and worry, she called 911, fearing something had happened to him. The dispatcher confirmed Jackson was fine and on the freeway, leaving Nora distraught and questioning why he hadn't come home. Feeling abandoned and overwhelmed, she decided to seek help from Greg, Jackson's close friend, hoping for some insight into Jackson's whereabouts and state of mind. The sudden change in their family life had left her seeking answers and support wherever she could find it. "Hey, Stella, please come in. I'm so glad to see you," Greg warmly greeted her at the door. "Would you like some coffee?" Nora, feeling a rush of emotions and eager for answers, quickly agreed. As they sat down, Greg started to shed some light on Jackson's puzzling behavior. "I know Jackson's actions seem strange to you," he said, placing a cup of coffee before her. Nora, unable to hold back, asked if Greg had seen Jackson after he abruptly left. Greg confessed they had argued about Jackson's decision to leave Nora and the babies behind, despite Greg's attempts to persuade him to stay. Hearing Greg's words deepened Nora's pain. She probed further, desperate for more clarity. Greg, sensing her despair, hinted there was more to the story of her relationship with Jackson than she knew. "Do you remember how you first met him?" Greg asked, prompting Nora to recall the day vividly, a day filled with laughter and celebration at the cafe. Greg nodded, acknowledging the memory but hinted at a hidden truth. Nora, tears streaming down her face, listened as Greg revealed a shocking bet made by Jackson the night they met, a bet involving $200 to sleep with her and an additional $2,000 to date her for a month. Nora was stunned, unable to comprehend Jackson's cruel wager. Greg continued, explaining that Jackson had never been serious in a relationship before. What started as a distasteful joke turned all too real when Jackson began to pursue Nora earnestly. Greg reassured her that Jackson did genuinely care for her, but as their relationship progressed and became more serious, Jackson felt trapped and scared of the commitment. Nora, struggling to grasp the revelation, asked about Jackson's infidelity and his apparent desire to leave her. Greg admitted that Jackson's fear of commitment and his deceptive nature were to blame. Despite contemplating divorce, Jackson was too shocked by Nora's pregnancy to leave. The conversation left Nora grappling with the reality of their relationship, the initial bet, Jackson's true character, and the complexities of their situation, compounded by the unexpected pregnancy. He wasn't prepared for the responsibility, but he did his best to keep everything from falling apart, trying to protect you from getting hurt. However, when you had triplets, he couldn't handle the pressure. It was too much for him, and he thought leaving was his only way out, Greg explained. "Oh my goodness, Greg," Nora cried. "You've been around so much. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Jackson left me to raise the babies alone. What am I going to do now? How can I manage all this by myself?" Nora was scared at the thought of raising her children on her own, her head aching from crying for so long, yet she couldn't stop her tears. She tried to reach Jackson, but his phone was off. "Try to relax, Nora. Take a deep breath. Let me take you home," Greg offered. Back home, after thanking her neighbor for watching the triplets, Nora let Greg in. "They're beautiful, Nora," he said, admiring the babies. "Jackson should have stayed, at least for them." After Greg left, Nora tried to calm down and care for her babies, but sleep was elusive. The next day, she hoped it was Jackson at the door, but found Greg instead, bringing diapers and baby supplies. "I tried calling," he said, bringing in more supplies from his car. Nora was touched by his thoughtfulness. "Want some coffee?" she asked. "No thanks. Maybe another time," Greg replied, leaving after helping her. With Greg's support, Nora found some relief. He was there for her, helping with the kids and even babysitting during her job interviews. Eventually, Nora landed a job as an attorney, balancing work and motherhood with Greg's invaluable support. Despite her initial reluctance, Nora couldn't deny the care Greg provided for her children. When Jackson finally saw Nora again, he was filled with surprise and regret at her strength and independence. "I miss you," Jackson said, but Nora was resolute. "You chose to leave, Jackson. You left us, and I had to be strong for our children. I've built a life for them without you." Nora's journey had made her stronger, and she had found happiness and success on her own terms, no longer needing Jackson as she once did. "I've learned to live without you, Jackson," Nora said, her voice calm and determined. "I refuse to be held back by the past. Our children have a great role model in Greg, and together we've made a new life. Your reasons for coming back now don't change anything. It's too late." Jackson felt uneasy, fully grasping the impact of his choices on the family. He had hoped for forgiveness, but realized some mistakes can't be completely mended. Nora stood confidently. "I think it's best you leave, Jackson. We've moved on, and there's no room for you to disrupt our peace." She turned her back on him, marking the end of their exchange. As Jackson left, he was filled with regret for what he had lost and the hurt he caused, promising himself to learn and make amends. Nora's pain had turned into anger over Jackson's betrayal. "How could you do this?" She demanded an answer. Jackson tried to explain, "I know I messed up. I was scared and not ready for the responsibilities of a family." "That's no excuse," Nora countered. "You were old enough. Remember the bet with Sam? You tricked me into believing in a happy life with you, then left us when things got tough." Jackson was taken aback by her knowing about the bet and his affairs. "How did you find out?" he asked. "Greg told me. He's been there for us, unlike you," Nora revealed. Jackson realized it was Greg, not Sam, who knew the truth. He plotted revenge in his mind, mistakenly thinking Greg had betrayed him. Approaching Nora again, Jackson tried to manipulate her. "You're lucky I left. I'm broke now. If I'd known you'd do well, I might have stayed." "Are you drunk?" Nora asked, losing patience. "I'm not surprised by your behavior. Please, just go." Nora's journey from pain to strength showed her resilience, and Jackson's attempts to re-enter her life only highlighted his inability to understand the depth of his actions and the strength Nora had found without him. Jackson begged for money, but Stella was furious. "Why should I help you after you left us?" she said, her anger clear. "You never thought about us, so I don't see why I should care about you now. Just leave and don't come back." With nowhere to go, Jackson waited at a cafe, plotting to confront Stella later. He saw her and Greg, his replacement, happy together and his children playing, which fueled his jealousy. The next day, while Stella was at work, Jackson showed up at her house. Greg was shocked to see him. "What are you doing here?" he asked, but Jackson just barged in, accusing Greg of betrayal. "What do you want?" Greg asked, worried. Jackson claimed he still had feelings for Stella and criticized Greg for supposedly taking her away. Greg retorted that Jackson had left by choice, reminding him of their past competition for Stella's affection. Jackson then confessed he was overwhelmed by the responsibility of fatherhood, especially after learning they were having triplets, which led him to run away. Greg couldn't understand how Jackson could abandon his family. Then, Jackson demanded $7,000 from Greg, threatening to reveal their past bet on Stella to keep quiet and settle his debts. Caught off guard, Greg agreed to pay, asking for some time to gather the money. Jackson set a deadline for Saturday before leaving Greg in a difficult position. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Greg found himself at the bank, withdrawing $7,000 from the account he and Nora shared, hoping it would go unnoticed. However, he hadn't considered that Nora would immediately be alerted about a significant withdrawal from their funds. Confused and concerned, Nora saw the notification for a $5,000 withdrawal and wondered why Greg would need such a large amount all of a sudden. She wasted no time calling him to find out what was going on. Hey, it's our money, of course. She started the call, trying to keep the mood light. But why do you need $7,000 all of a sudden? Is everything okay? Did something happen? Caught in a tight spot, Greg knew he had no choice but to come clean about the whole ordeal. He confessed to Nora. Jackson came to me, threatening to reveal a bet he claimed was between him and me, not Sam. I was scared of losing you, Stella. I love you too much. To Greg's utter surprise, Nora's reaction was laughter, not the anger he had braced himself for. Greg, do you really think I would leave you over some silly bet made in the past? I'm upset with Jackson because he left me and the kids, not because of any bet. Let's talk more when I get home. Greg was speechless, realizing Nora didn't hold the bet against him. Once she returned home, Greg attempted to apologize again, but Nora reassured him, saying she had already forgiven him and wanted to focus on their happiness together. While Nora was getting ready to make them a meal, she reflected on Jackson's actions. I could have felt sorry for him, considering his addiction issues, but blackmailing us? That's too much, she thought, determined to take action. Without delay, Nora told Greg about her decision to report Jackson to the authorities. His blackmail and neglect in providing for his children were not just morally wrong, but likely illegal. Greg, understanding the seriousness of the situation, supported Nora's decision fully. Together, they compiled evidence of Jackson's threats, his attempt at extortion, and his failure to make alimony payments. With a solid case built, they approached the local police to file a report. The police, impressed by the thoroughness of their evidence, quickly initiated an investigation into Jackson's actions. It wasn't long before the legal system began to uncover the extent of Jackson's wrongdoing, ensuring that justice would be pursued for his actions. The police quickly put together a solid case against Jackson, highlighting his wrongdoings clearly. His attempts at blackmailing Greg were the main focus, leading to his arrest. This development surprised everyone in their circle, shedding light on the true extent of Jackson's deceitful behavior and the harm he had inflicted on Stella and her loved ones. The legal system took the case against Jackson very seriously, aiming to deliver justice efficiently. His trial attracted a lot of attention, becoming a topic of discussion for its implications on trust and betrayal within relationships. The evidence laid out during the trial showcased Jackson's negative traits and actions vividly. Witness statements further exposed his manipulative nature, showing how little he cared for the welfare of others. In court, Jackson's confident demeanor fell apart as he confronted the reality of his actions. The judge, recognizing the gravity of Jackson's crimes, issued a severe sentence that reflected the seriousness of his blackmail and betrayal. The outcome of the trial sent a strong message against exploitation and blackmail, emphasizing accountability for such acts. With Jackson now facing the consequences in prison, Stella and Greg experienced a profound sense of relief and closure. Their brave move to report Jackson not only safeguarded their family, but also protected others from becoming his victims in the future. They hoped this would deter similar harmful behavior, promoting the safety and well-being of the community. For Stella and Greg, this ordeal reinforced their love and unity. They emerged from the experience with a stronger relationship, ready to face any future challenges together. Their story is a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for justice, highlighting their unwavering support for each other through tough times.
I'm Ava, a 29-year-old who works in an office. I lost my parents in a tragic car accident when I was just 7, leaving my younger brother Owen and me to navigate the world without them. Initially, our paternal grandparents took us in. Despite their love and efforts, the challenge of raising 2 children in their retirement was immense. After a couple of years, my life took another turn when I was adopted by my aunt and uncle. This transition was bittersweet. I was sad to leave my brother and grandparents, but my new home offered a fresh start. Adjusting to a new family was daunting at first, but my aunt and uncle enveloped me with warmth and acceptance, saying, "Let's slowly become a real family. You are already our daughter to us." These words offered me comfort during a time of significant change. Despite the lack of a biological connection, my aunt, uncle, and I grew into a family bonded by love and shared experiences, proving that family ties go beyond blood relations. As I grew older, I cherished the thought of reuniting with my brother Owen, from whom I had been separated. So when I learned Owen was getting married, my excitement was uncontainable. However, this joy was short-lived when his fiancée coldly told me that, since I was adopted and we had grown apart, I was practically a stranger to them. She asked me not to involve myself with her and my brother's life, explicitly stating I wasn't welcome at their wedding. This revelation was a shock, not just because of the exclusion, but because it underscored a painful truth about family dynamics and acceptance. Despite this, I've come to realize that family isn't solely defined by blood or legal ties, but by the love, support, and shared experiences that bind people together. My journey has taught me about resilience, the complexity of family relationships, and the power of love and acceptance to create a sense of belonging. Growing up in my aunt and uncle's care wasn't about extraordinary moments. It was their extraordinary love and patience that made my journey special. Initially, adjusting to my new home was challenging. I found it hard to open up, and at times, I was both stubborn and rebellious. Despite this, my aunt and uncle never wavered in their support and acceptance. Over time, their unwavering kindness transformed how I saw them, and they truly became my parents in every sense of the word. As an adult, I felt a deep desire to give back to them in any way possible. With this goal in mind, I joined my uncle's company. Through dedication and hard work, I eventually became a supervisor. My bond with my brother remained strong, thanks to the technology that allowed us to keep in touch through calls and texts. Our meetings became less frequent over time, but we still shared important moments in our lives. My brother grew into a kind and mature individual under our grandparents' care. When he graduated from college and secured a job at a well-known company, we were all immensely proud. Sadly, our grandparents passed away before they could see my brother reach another milestone in his life, his engagement. The news of my brother's engagement was a joyful surprise. Although I felt a little left out at first, the happiness for him quickly overshadowed any other feelings. It was a poignant reminder of our shared journey from loss and separation to reaching significant life milestones. When my brother introduced his fiancée, Eliana, to us, it was a moment filled with mixed emotions. Despite the challenges we faced growing up apart, seeing my brother so happy made me feel a sense of pride and joy akin to a mother's love. His introduction of Eliana as his fiancée was a heartwarming moment that underscored how far we had both come. I greeted Eliana warmly, expressing my happiness for their engagement and my gratitude for her presence in our family gathering. My aunt and uncle also welcomed her with open arms, making it clear that she was joining a family that values love and acceptance above all else. This meeting wasn't just about formal introductions. It was a celebration of new beginnings and the enduring strength of family bonds. I had been looking forward to getting to know Eliana, my brother Owen's fiancée, a bit more personally. From my initial impression, she defied my expectations of being a sheltered individual, given her background as the daughter of a company president. Instead, she appeared quite self-assured and capable. Considering Owen's gentle and easygoing nature, it seemed like they might complement each other well. Her confidence was evident, especially when she met us with a determined gaze, engaging in conversations and asking questions that ranged from my marital status to my living arrangements, all under the guise of getting to know me better. Her future sister-in-law. After our family meeting, Eliana reached out to meet over coffee, a gesture that initially filled me with a sense of gaining a new sister. However, the atmosphere shifted as we sat down. Eliana expressed a desire to speak privately, opening the floor for any grievances I might have about Owen, only to swiftly move on to her real agenda. Her sudden request, veiled as a favor, instantly put me on edge. The intensity in her eyes was unmistakable as she laid out her unexpected plea for me to distance myself from her and Owen after their marriage, claiming that my status as an adopted child and our perceived estrangement made me essentially a stranger to them, even going so far as to exclude me from their wedding. I was taken aback, to say the least. While I might not share a legal bond with Owen, the connection and memories we shared were undeniably real. I had no intentions of intruding upon their married life. All I wished for was to partake in the joy of their wedding day. Eliana's attempt to preemptively address potential familial tensions, especially those often associated with in-law relationships, seemed misplaced when directed at me. I tried to reassure her that there was no basis for her concerns, that my only desire was to celebrate their union as Owen's sister. Despite my efforts to alleviate her worries, Eliana remained firm, reiterating her stance and leaving me to grapple with the reality that, in her eyes, I was an outsider to the family we both were about to become part of. I was utterly baffled by her words, my confusion apparent as I tried to process her blunt statements. Eliana seemed to operate under the assumption that my brother Owen and I had drifted apart to the point of becoming strangers, emphasizing my single status and living situation with my aunt and uncle, whom she referred to as those elderly folks. She voiced her concerns about the possibility of me depending on them in the future, a thought she expressed with a disconcerting chill. Her perspective was jarring, to say the least. The idea that I might become a burden to them simply because I was adopted and single was not something I had ever considered. Her words, "It's out of the question for you to rely on us after they pass away," hit me hard. It was as if she was already dismissing my independence and the life I had built for myself. I tried to defend my situation, reminding her of my job and financial stability, but she cut me off, making it clear that my current status did little to change her stance. Eliana's declaration that I wouldn't be invited to the wedding, coupled with her expectation that I should not involve them in any of my future family events, was a blow. It wasn't just about being single. She seemed to have a fixed image of me that no amount of reasoning could alter. The thought that someone could view a family member of their future spouse in such a light left me reeling. I attempted to reason with her, arguing that excluding me from family events and expecting Owen to do the same was an overreach. The idea that our sibling bond could be so easily dismissed because we saw less of each other as adults was unthinkable. Her response, suggesting a minimal involvement that would eventually lead to complete distance, was disheartening. Eliana framed her request as a necessity for their future happiness, insinuating that my refusal could jeopardize their marriage. This felt less like a request and more like an ultimatum, leveraging Owen's happiness against me. The memory of Owen's proud smile when introducing Eliana contrasted sharply with the unreasonable condition now being placed on our relationship. Later, when I shared the day's events with my aunt and uncle, their disbelief mirrored my own. The disparity between Eliana's pleasant demeanor during our initial meeting and her harsh demands was startling. My uncle's concern for what I would do next reflected my inner turmoil. I didn't want to cause any trouble for Owen's wedding, so I decided, albeit reluctantly, to step back. I planned to celebrate with Owen privately once the dust had settled, a compromise that did little to soothe the hurt of being seen as an outsider in what was meant to be a joyful family occasion. On the day of my brother's wedding, under a clear and vivid blue sky, I found myself at home, distanced from an event that should have been a moment of familial joy and celebration. It was a decision shaped by Eliana's explicit wishes, yet it felt unnatural to be so removed from my brother Owen's milestone. As the day unfolded, my phone became the unexpected bridge between me and the wedding I was absent from. Eliana, once saved in my phone with the hope she'd become a cherished sister-in-law, now seemed more like a persistent stranger than family. Her incessant calls, ringing one after another, felt strangely out of place on what was supposed to be her busiest day. Annoyed by the disruption, I eventually silenced my phone, only to be met with a relentless vibration signaling her continued attempts to reach out. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. Eliana, who had so firmly categorized me as an outsider, now seemed desperate to make contact. The humor in imagining what could possibly compel a bride to call so persistently on her wedding day was a brief respite in an otherwise tense situation. Despite a log full of missed calls and several voicemails, my curiosity remained unique. That afternoon, as I shared a peaceful moment with my aunt and uncle, indulging in our favorite donuts, the persistent ring of the intercom broke our tranquility. To my astonishment, Eliana stood at the door, her appearance marked by frustration rather than bridal bliss. Her accusation that my absence had somehow ruined her wedding day was as baffling as it was unwarranted. With a calm demeanor, I reminded her of her own insistence that I, being a stranger, had no place at her wedding. The logic she had used to exclude me now seemed to confound her as she struggled to justify her presence and her accusations. Eliana's true motives slowly came to light amidst her confusion and anger. It turned out my uncle's absence from the wedding, given his notable position in the electrical industry, sparked concerns and rumors among the guests. This revelation brought Owen himself to my doorstep, his arrival cutting through the tense atmosphere. His presence underscored the complexity of family dynamics and the unforeseen consequences of Eliana's earlier demands. This unexpected turn of events highlighted the fragile balance between personal relationships and societal expectations. Despite the turmoil and misunderstandings, it also opened the pathway to reassess and potentially mend the strained ties within our family. Eliana hastily left without hearing my side of the story, leaving behind a trail of confusion and disbelief. Shortly after, Owen approached me, apologetic and unaware of the real reason behind my absence from his wedding. He relayed that Eliana had informed him of a fabricated story about me having commitments with my boyfriend's parents, a lie crafted so convincingly that even Owen found it plausible. The situation escalated when guests noticed the absence of our uncle, a key figure expected at the wedding. Rumors quickly spread that his absence was a silent protest against the exclusion of his niece, me, revealing the truth about the family dynamics to the gathered crowd. The revelation caused an uproar among the guests, with Eliana's parents caught off guard, having been kept in the dark about the whole situation. The wedding, intended to be a celebration, descended into chaos, with fingers pointed and judgments passed. Eliana, in her frustration, blamed me for the turmoil, accusing me of being heartless for not attending despite her explicit request that I stay away. My uncle, who had been observing the unfolding drama, intervened with a perspective that shed light on the true nature of relationships and responsibilities. He clarified his deliberate choice to skip the wedding, countering Eliana's narrative. He revealed his significant role in the electrical industry and his connections that extended to Owen's workplace and Eliana's family business, highlighting how Eliana's actions had jeopardized more than just family ties. Furthermore, my uncle took the opportunity to underline my accomplishments and contributions, both in our company and within the electrical industry at large. As a supervisor and the secretary of the Electrical Industry Association, my involvement and networking within the industry were undeniable, challenging Eliana's misjudgment of me as a mere troublemaker without prospect. In a calm yet authoritative tone, my uncle addressed the broader issue at hand. He reminded everyone of the hardships Owen and I had faced after losing our parents, and how, despite being adopted, I had thrived, making a significant impact professionally and personally. His words served as a powerful reminder of the value of character over misconceptions based on family status or marital situation. Eliana was left speechless, confronted with the reality of her actions and the misguided judgments she had made. The episode served as a poignant lesson on the complexities of family dynamics, the importance of understanding and compassion, and the often underestimated strength and resilience of those who navigate life's challenges with grace and determination. Eliana found herself at a loss for words, unable to refute my uncle's well-reasoned points. However, rather than reflecting on her actions, she directed her frustration towards me, accusing me of deceit for not disclosing my uncle's prominence and wealth sooner, claiming it would have changed her stance on my attendance at the wedding. I quickly cut through her immature outburst, reminding her that her selective memory and prejudiced judgments had led to this fallout. Despite being introduced to our family and my role within it, She had chosen to see only what fit her narrative, that I was merely an adopted single individual, disregarding the essence of our family bonds and my professional achievements. In the face of her plea for assistance, asserting that I could somehow rectify her tarnished image, I stood firm. Her attempt to label herself as a sisterly figure, despite her earlier insistence on my status as a stranger, was both ironic and futile. I made it clear that her own actions and words had sown the seeds of the current predicament, and there was little a stranger like me could, or would, do to aid her. As the conversation spiraled into redundancy, with Eliana desperately seeking a way to mitigate the consequences of her actions, I concluded the exchange with a simple farewell. Owen, caught in an uncomfortable position, led his now ex-fiancée away. The aftermath of their disrupted engagement saw Eliana burdened with the financial repercussions of the wedding cancellation, a situation her complaints could not ameliorate. Her parents, recognizing the gravity of her misjudgments, held her accountable, a rare moment of accountability for someone of her background. The implications of Eliana's actions extended beyond personal relationships, impacting professional and business dynamics significantly. Her father's company, a modest enterprise, relied heavily on maintaining favorable relations with both Owen's major corporation and my uncle's influential position within the Electrical Industry Association. The fallout from Eliana's behavior necessitated a humbling apology from her father, underscoring the critical importance of those relationships for the survival of his business. Eliana's failure to navigate the delicate balance of personal and professional relationships led to her isolation, not just from our family, but also from her own, as she found herself unwelcome at home and seeking refuge with friends. The situation served as a stark reminder of the consequences that can arise from underestimating the value of respect, understanding, and the intricate web of human connections that define our lives. In the aftermath of the wedding debacle, a rift formed between Eliana and those around her, as no one stepped forward to bridge the gap she had created. Owen, in a moment of introspection, came to us with apologies, his eyes open to the true nature of Eliana's affections. He lamented how she had seen value in him only for his position at a major company and the absence of parental figures in his life, which, in her view, made him an easier partner to manage. Eliana's treatment of me as merely an obstacle was a revelation that pained Owen deeply, regretting his initial blindness to her motives. We gathered around Owen, offering words of consolation, reinforcing the notion that the discovery of Eliana's deceit before any marital vows were exchanged was a fortunate turn of events. Despite Eliana's beauty, we reminded Owen that the fault did not lie with him for being misled by someone adept at concealing their true nature. His inherent kindness, we noted, was a trait that made him vulnerable, but would also lead him to someone genuinely deserving of his affection. In a bid to lighten the mood, we presented him with his favorite donuts, pairing them with coffee as a small gesture of comfort. This unfortunate incident, paradoxically, served to mend the growing distance between Owen and myself. It reminded me of the importance of maintaining connections with family, even as life's responsibilities and personal pursuits lead us down separate paths. The initial excitement over Owen's engagement, despite its eventual collapse, was a catalyst for rekindling our sibling bond. As I observed the easy camaraderie among us, a true familial warmth that extended beyond blood relations, I reflected on the often overlooked value of nurturing our closest relationships. The experience underscored a valuable lesson about the fragility and importance of connections with family, friends, and loved ones. It served as a poignant reminder to not take those dearest to us for granted, to actively show them our appreciation and care. This renewed perspective prompted me to consider the well-being of my loved ones more diligently, to ensure that they know their significance in my life. Such moments of reflection are crucial, reminding us of the enduring strength and comfort found in the bonds of family and friendship, even amidst life's most challenging trials.
Evelyn had been working as a part-time waitress for several months, stepping in whenever the catering company she worked for needed extra hands. Specializing in outdoor events, she found herself serving at various gatherings, from simple parties to lavish celebrations. On this particular day, she was at a grand wedding hosted by a prominent businessman for his daughter. With experience under her belt, Evelyn was familiar with the drill and handled her duties with a seasoned ease, undaunted by the heavy workload or the irregular hours that came with the job. Every paycheck was a step towards providing for her two beloved children, Aiden and Aria, who were the center of her world. Since the tragic death of her husband, Nathan, 4 years earlier, Evelyn had single-handedly shouldered the responsibility of their upbringing, cherishing the memory of the happier times they once shared. As the event unfolded, Evelyn navigated through the sea of guests, ensuring everyone's needs were met with a professional grace. It was a routine she had grown accustomed to, yet nothing could have prepared her for the shock that awaited her on the stage. Glancing up, she caught sight of the wedding couple, an unfamiliar bride, but a groom who bore an uncanny resemblance to Nathan, her late husband. The sight was so startling that Evelyn nearly lost her grip on her tray, disbelief and confusion clouding her senses. For a moment, the world around her faded into a blur, leaving her fixated on the man who was supposed to be gone from this world. Despite the years that had passed, Evelyn was certain of her recognition. Nathan might have looked slightly different, having gained some weight and changed his hairstyle, but to Evelyn, the man standing beside the bride was unmistakably her husband. The realization hit her like a physical blow, sending a wave of dizziness through her and causing tears to well up in her eyes. In that moment, faced with the impossible sight of Nathan alive and well, Evelyn's heart raced with a mix of emotions, from shock to an overwhelming sense of betrayal. How could it be that the husband she mourned for 4 years, the father of her children, was standing there, a ghost from her past brought unexpectedly back to life? Evelyn's mind raced with the impulse to confront the man who looked so much like her late husband, Nathan, right on the stage. However, the sight of the jubilant crowd celebrating the couple made her reconsider. Overwhelmed by a mix of shock and betrayal, she found herself struggling to maintain her composure, haunted by memories of mourning a man who now appeared to be very much alive. Determined to seek answers, Evelyn bided her time until the groom descended from the stage. Seizing the moment, she ascended the steps, microphone in hand, ready to address the assembly. Despite her bold move, the revelers were too absorbed in their festivities to notice her interruption. Only her boss sensed trouble, his anxiety palpable. "Can I have a moment of your attention, please?" Evelyn's voice, though steady, hardly captured the guest's attention. She proceeded to wish Nathan and his bride well, a gesture that stirred confusion rather than the clarification she sought. It wasn't until she was forcefully removed from the stage by her boss that she learned of her apparent mistake. The groom was identified as Ryan, a businessman from Houston, not Nathan. Yet, Evelyn was not convinced, especially after catching a fleeting look of recognition, or was it fear, in the groom's eyes. Despite his protests and the assurances of others that she was mistaken, Evelyn remained certain of her husband's identity. The episode quickly faded from the guest's memory, overshadowed by the wedding's ongoing celebrations. Leaving the venue after receiving her pay, Evelyn reflected on the surreal encounter. She never got the chance to speak directly with the man she believed to be Nathan, leaving her with unanswered questions and a heart still searching for closure. Evelyn, realizing the man she thought was her late husband had no intention of clarifying matters, decided to shift her focus back to her immediate priorities: her children, Aiden and Aria, who adored her unconditionally. On her way home, she made a detour to the store, intending to surprise her son with his favorite cotton candy and her daughter with her preferred ice cream. After selecting a few more essentials, she approached the checkout, only to discover in horror that the envelope containing her earnings had disappeared from her pocket. A forgotten hole was the culprit, a careless mistake that now left her without her much-needed salary. Distressed and on the verge of tears, Evelyn faced the cashier's impatient query about payment. The embarrassment of not being able to afford simple treats for her children, combined with the judgmental glances from those in line, was overwhelming. Just as she was about to abandon her items and flee, a kind-hearted young man observed her plight and intervened. He offered to cover her expenses, gracefully presenting his credit card to the cashier and addressing Evelyn with a respect that warmed her heart and brought an unexpected smile to her face. It had been so long since Evelyn had been the recipient of kindness or a compliment. The gesture momentarily lifted the weight from her shoulders. The cashier, though begrudgingly processing the transaction, couldn't hide a flicker of envy towards Evelyn, now the focus of such gallant assistance. Grateful beyond words, Evelyn gathered her groceries, ready to make a swift exit, her spirits slightly buoyed by the stranger's generosity. However, before she could leave, the gentleman caught up with her, eager to ensure she was all right, extending his concern with a polite, "Excuse me, miss." This unexpected act of kindness not only saved her evening, but also reminded her that goodwill and compassion still existed in the world, sometimes from the most unexpected sources. "Would you like me to walk you home? It's getting dark, and it might not be safe for you to be out here by yourself," he offered. Evelyn gave him a look that mixed uncertainty with a hint of gratitude. As they made their way to her place, they found themselves engaged in an effortless conversation, uncovering many fascinating details about each other's lives. Evelyn discovered that the gentleman accompanying her was Francis Price, a visitor to San Antonio on business. Noticing the absence of a wedding band, she assumed he wasn't married, a guest that Francis soon confirmed by sharing the heartbreaking loss of his wife and daughter in an accident 5 years prior. Evelyn expressed her empathy with a nod, understanding all too well the pain of losing someone close. Their exchange was so engaging that they hardly noticed arriving at Evelyn's home. Francis bid her farewell with a polite handshake, declining her invitation inside, but not before exchanging phone numbers. Despite Evelyn's doubts about their paths crossing again, she handed him her number. Inside, Evelyn's children, Aiden and Aria, eagerly awaited her return, immediately diving into the treats she had brought. "Easy there. Save some for tomorrow," she laughed, surprisingly unfazed by the day's earlier financial loss. The encounter with Francis had momentarily eclipsed her troubles, including the recent issues with Nathan, her ex-husband. However, as the night drew on and Evelyn settled in, thoughts of Nathan crept back in. She found herself reminiscing about their past, tracing back 7 years to her university days as an economics freshman. Moving from a small town to San Antonio, she had been eager for a fresh start, away from the financial struggles of her family in Oklahoma. As the eldest of 5, she knew she had to forge her own path without relying much on her parents. San Antonio's vibrant city life was a stark contrast to her humble beginnings. The city's energy, with its glowing neon signs and constant buzz, was intoxicating. It was here, amidst the city's fervor, that she met Nathan, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Being young and brimming with zest, any day could transform into an exuberant celebration of existence, and this day was no different. Among the crowd, Nathan's eyes were drawn to a reserved yet striking young woman, setting her apart in a way that hinted she wasn't from around there. Nathan, a charmer by nature, swiftly captivated Evelyn's attention and soon won her affection. His gestures of romance, flowers, gifts, and dinners at upscale restaurants were enchanting, especially to someone as unseasoned in love as Evelyn. Their friendship quickly blossomed into a deeper connection. Despite their growing closeness, Nathan was initially secretive about his profession, merely mentioning he was a businessman. Any attempt by Evelyn to delve deeper was skillfully deflected, leaving his work a mystery to her. Over time, Evelyn ceased her inquiries, resigning to the fact that Nathan chose to keep this aspect of his life private. When Nathan proposed, Evelyn was too enamored to concern herself with his secrecy. Their early days as a married couple were idyllic, spending a honeymoon in Houston before settling in a cozy suburban New York home. The arrival of their children, Aiden followed by Aria, seemed to complete their happiness, painting a picture of a perfect family life. However, their bliss was not to last. Nathan began exhibiting odd behaviors, displaying paranoia and a reluctance to engage with unknown callers or visitors. Initially dismissed by Evelyn as mere caution, it eventually became apparent that something deeper troubled Nathan. His refusal to discuss his concerns only deepened the mystery. Then, without any forewarning, Nathan vanished. He left for a supposed business meeting and never returned, leaving no trace or means of contact. Evelyn's concern turned to alarm when he missed dinner and failed to answer his phone. Despite her urgency, the police advised a waiting period of 6 days before they could officially declare him missing, suggesting such disappearances were not uncommon and might resolve on their own. This response left Evelyn in a state of anxious limbo, pondering the uncertain fate of her husband. Evelyn couldn't shake off the gnawing feeling that something dreadful had unfolded. The thought that Nathan might be gone forever, leaving her with a multitude of unanswered questions, was unbearable. She came to a startling realization. She knew virtually nothing concrete about Nathan's life outside their home. His workplace remained a mystery, as she had never been there nor had any clues to its location. Speculation crept into her mind. Could Nathan have been leading a double life, perhaps involved in deceitful activities? This theory seemed to gain weight when, 3 days after his disappearance, the police initiated a fruitless search. Adding to the distress, it was discovered that their family savings had vanished, and Nathan's car was located abandoned in a forest, showing signs of a violent struggle. The discovery of blood inside the car, presumed to be Nathan's, led many to conclude he had met a tragic end. Despite initially holding on to hope, Evelyn eventually had to face the grim possibility that Nathan might not return. The journey to accepting her new reality as a single mother was fraught with challenges, but it was her children, Aiden and Aria, who provided her with the strength to persevere. 4 years passed, and the memory of Nathan, who had disappeared leaving a trail of mysteries, haunted Evelyn. She was plagued with questions about his work, his disappearance, and the circumstances of his presumed death. Although she couldn't shake the suspicion that foul play was involved, she also couldn't accept the idea of Nathan being involved in criminal activities. At a wedding, Evelyn's world was turned upside down when she spotted Nathan, alive and apparently thriving, next to a wealthy bride. The sight brought back memories of her own wedding day, filled with joy and promise. Yet, she knew that confronting him would offer her no solace. If Nathan had wanted to return, he would have, but instead he chose to abandon their family. That night, Evelyn was besieged by a tumult of thoughts, making sleep an elusive companion. The following day brought no respite from her troubles. After a hurried breakfast, she dropped her children at daycare, expressing gratitude to Mrs. Grace, her neighbor. This kind woman, in her 50s and living alone, had become a pillar of support for Evelyn, offering her help without expecting anything in return. Before Evelyn had traveled far from her home, a man emerged from a car parked by the roadside. Her heart skipped a beat when she recognized him. It was Nathan. He signaled for her to join him in the car. Initially, Evelyn felt a mix of alarm and reluctance, but the presence of bystanders made her feel safe enough to approach him. Nathan didn't offer any affectionate greetings or apologies. He insisted that the circumstances leading to his disappearance weren't his fault. He explained that 4 years ago, he had been compelled to vanish without a trace for his safety. Evelyn's suspicions were confirmed. Nathan was indeed a con artist who had repeatedly deceived people and escaped just before being exposed. He had changed identities by marrying, thereby creating temporary new lives for himself, including faking his own death more than once. Evelyn, incredulous, asked him how many other families he had abandoned. Nathan claimed he had never loved anyone as much as he loved her, a statement Evelyn saw through immediately. Her experiences had taught her to recognize deception, and she did not believe his claims of undying affection. Nathan continued, attempting to convince her of his remorse and longing for his family, claiming fear prevented his return. Evelyn listened to his explanations with a calm detachment, already seeing through his fabrications. At the conclusion of his self-justification, she firmly told him he would never see his children again. They believed him to be deceased, and as far as she was concerned, that was how it would remain. She advised him to embrace his new life, warning him that eventually his deceitful actions would lead to his downfall. Nathan's face turned ashen as he tried to convince her of his reformation, claiming he had left his criminal past behind. Evelyn, however, remained skeptical. She chose not to engage further, recognizing that some truths were better left unchallenged for the sake of her and her children's peace of mind. Stepping out of the car, Evelyn felt a significant shift within her. She walked away, not just from Nathan, but from the heavy shadows of her past that had loomed over her for so long. With every step, her confidence surged, and a sense of liberation washed over her. She was finally free from the burdens of a husband who had vanished under dubious conditions, leaving her to fend for herself and their 2 children. It was as if a new chapter of her life was unfolding before her, one filled with hope and the promise of new beginnings. Evelyn was now open to the possibility of love, something she hadn't truly felt since Nathan's disappearance. She remembered the compassionate man from the store, Francis, who had stepped in to assist her when she needed it most. Motivated by a newfound belief in destiny, and perhaps a nudge from Cupid, she reached out to him, setting the stage for a new adventure in her life. Their reunion was heartwarming. Francis was genuinely happy to see her, and it wasn't long before he invited her to dinner. Their connection deepened with each date, and unlike before, Evelyn took her time, letting their relationship blossom naturally. A year into their courtship, she and Francis decided to marry, a decision she approached with both joy and caution. As life would have it, news of Nathan surfaced around the same time as her engagement to Francis. He was embroiled in another fraudulent scheme that finally caught up with him, leading to his arrest and subsequent news coverage. Evelyn received this news with a serene detachment. Any feelings of empathy for Nathan had long since evaporated. She believed justice had been served with his 5-year incarceration. Meanwhile, Evelyn's life with Francis was flourishing. He was not just her new partner, but had wholeheartedly embraced Aiden and Aria, treating them with the same love and care as if they were his own. Together, they built a nurturing and stable home, a stark contrast to the turmoil and uncertainty that had once defined Evelyn's life. This new chapter was not just about finding love again. It was a testament to resilience, the power of healing, and the capacity to find joy and fulfillment in the wake of adversity.